Good evening and welcome to Poland Daily. I'm Nicholas Richardson and this is the news. Demonstrators have gathered in the centres of Polish cities to protest against a verdict of the Constitutional Tribunal, which on the 21st of October ruled that eugenic abortion, which constitutes the vast majority of abortions under Poland's strict abortion law, is unconstitutional. As a result, Catholic churches, regional offices of the ruling Law and Justice Party and even the Ronald Reagan monument, which stands in the centre of Warsaw, have been attacked. Many observers see an analogy to the anarchist protests sweeping through cities in the United States. Some participants have declared themselves to be anti-Trump. Protests have taken place for the third day running. Several hundred people gathered at noon in front of the headquarters of the Law and Justice Party at Ulica Nowogrodzka in Warsaw to protest against the tightening of the abortion law. Members of the opposition parties, such as Civic Coalition with the president of Warsaw, Rafał Trzaskowski, and the left also showed up to protest against the Constitutional Tribunal's verdict.
Kobiet prawa! Wspólna sprawa! Kobiet prawa!
Mamy jedno z najbardziej restrykcyjnych praw aborcyjnych w całej Europie.
We have one of the most restrictive abortion laws in Europe. There was a compromise around it and, above all, a public debate. And today, PiS, in the epidemic, decided to take one of the most controversial decisions, making the anti-abortion law in Poland, after Malta, the most restrictive in the whole of Europe, actually creating a hell for women.
Stwarzając tak naprawdę piekło kobietom.
Jeszcze raz apeluję do Ministerstwa Zdrowia.
I once again appeal to the Ministry of Health, to the Ombudsman for Patients' Rights, to MPs. Do something about it. We need a clear declaration to those who manage hospitals, because women will mutilate themselves and may also die.
Będą się okaleczały i mogą też umierać.
The demonstrators marched from Nowogrodzka to the building of the Constitutional Tribunal. They chanted slogans such as "Disgrace, fight the virus, not women. We do not fold umbrellas." The last, the symbol of protest from 2016.
Jaką cenę płacimy za tak zwany symetryzm polityczny?
What price do we pay for the so-called political symmetry? The price we pay for almost 30 years of compromise, the so-called abortion compromise. I hope that those circles that supported the abortion compromise until Friday will change their minds, and at the end I want to say one thing. Jarosław Kaczyński, who gave us this hell, is today paying off his political debt to the clergy.
Zgotował nam to piekło. Dzisiaj spłaca swój polityczny dług.
Kaja Gadek, who is part of the civic initiative Stop Abortion, believes that the protests in such a situation are a normal reaction.
Z całą pewnością musimy...
We definitely have to say that feminist protest against the protection of life is a completely natural phenomenon. It always occurs, and it does not mean that we should allow the killing of Polish children.
Zabijanie polskich dzieci.
According to the activist, the remaining 2 of the 3 grounds for abortion should also be removed.
Zwracam uwagę na...
I would like to draw your attention to an important thing. The Constitutional Tribunal removed one premise from the currently binding Abortion Act. We have 2 more premises, and it is very important that we remember that every child has the right to life. The other 2 premises should also be removed. But today I ask publicly where there are defenders of the Constitution, because mass social protests are being organised against the respect for judgments of the Constitutional Tribunal.
Protesty społeczne przeciwko respektowaniu wyroków Trybunału Konstytucyjnego.
In connection with the ruling of the Constitutional Tribunal, there are to be changes in the programme for life, which is to provide support for mothers raising children with disabilities. I will opt for it, and some of my colleagues with whom I have already talked will certainly also join in to expand various payments, help in the programme for life. A lot has already been done in recent years, but I think that even more should be done, so that these families never feel alone, and, what's more, I think that it is also worth providing mothers who decide to give birth, but who will not feel able to raise such a child, the ability to put this baby in good hands, because we know that there are different ecclesiastical circles that themselves have said that they would voluntarily want to take care of such children. According to a 2016 poll, 84% of Poles believe that abortion should be allowed in a situation where pregnancy threatened the mother's life. 74% of Poles support abortion when pregnancy is the result of rape. When asked about abortion due to the bad financial situation of the mother, 81% of people were against it. According to sociologists, from 1989 the opinion of Poles tilts towards limiting abortion rights. Andrzej Duda, the president of Poland, has announced that he has tested positive for coronavirus. The Polish head of state recorded a special address to the nation, saying that he is feeling well and has no symptoms at all. In the video, President Duda asked everyone to be careful and help the elderly as much as possible at this difficult time. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you're having a good Saturday. Unfortunately, I can't really say I am, since I tested positive for coronavirus. I haven't felt any symptoms, especially the most typical ones, meaning the total loss of taste and smell. I haven't felt anything like that. Unfortunately, the test proved I am sick. However, I remain at full strength and I hope that doesn't change. For the next few days, I will remain in quarantine with my wife, and we are following to the letter all the rules of isolation. I will keep working from home. It won't be a problem. I want now to apologise to all those who may now be under quarantine as well due to having been in contact with me. If I had had any symptoms, believe me, I would have cancelled all the meetings. We tried to keep all the necessary precautions. We wore masks, gloves, used sanitisers. I hope none of you become infected. But first and foremost, I ask you to take special care of our senior citizens. We are approaching All Souls' Day, the time we usually get together in families and visit the graves of our relatives. It is also a time we meet with our parents and grandparents. Please, watch out for them especially, since they are in the most danger. I ask you to check whether they need anything, do their groceries for them, so they may stay at home. Let's be united at this difficult time. I want to thank all of you who sent me wishes of good health. I appreciate that very much. Once again, I hope you are safe. Have a great weekend. Poland continues to struggle with the high daily numbers of coronavirus infection. Starting today, the whole country falls under the red zone, meaning new restrictions have come into force. The rapid rise in infections is putting a strain on the healthcare system as the number of people dying from the virus is slowly reaching 200 per day. Poland saw 13,628 new infections today. The total number of infected in the country has reached 241,946. 179 people died today, raising the total number of dead to 4,351. The new restrictions imposed throughout Poland by the government mean, among other things, that restaurants are only allowed to prepare food to take away. Cultural events may admit only 25% of the maximum audience, while keeping each audience member or participant 1.5 metres away from each other. Sports events may only take place without a live audience, and most educational classes are to take place online. Swimming pools, fitness centres and gyms are closed. A protest by COVID-19 sceptics was organised in front of the Palace of Culture and Science in Warsaw. The demonstrators opposed the restrictions introduced by the government in the fight against the coronavirus epidemic. At noon on Saturday, in the vicinity of the Palace of Culture and Science, the March for Freedom began. Several hundred people protested against the coronavirus restrictions as the police used tear gas. The protesters do not agree with the restrictions imposed, such as wearing masks in public spaces and the closure of restaurants and gyms. Today is the first day when red zone applies throughout Poland, meaning that restaurants and catering establishments may only sell takeaway food. We are a free people. We want to go to the gym. We don't want to be restricted. I have one goal: for the people to take off their masks. I'm not afraid of the virus. Besides, when the elections were coming up, they let people be free. The organisers claim the protest is an objection to the policy of the national government and global political and financial forces regarding COVID-19, the use of unreliable PCR tests, and scientifically unsubstantiated and illegally applied restrictions. People keep losing their jobs. Their lives are being ruined under the guise of the pandemic. Each of us was born a free person. We want to stand up to the regime and the terror. On Monday, according to the new restrictions, lessons in elementary school for grades 4 and upwards are to be held remotely. Pupils from grades 1 to 3 will continue to learn at schools. Kindergartens and nurseries will remain open. Also from Monday, children up to the age of 16 will not be permitted to go out in public between 8 a.m. and 4 p.m. on weekdays unless accompanied by an adult. Polish Prime Minister Mateusz Morawiecki gave a special address to the nation concerning the situation with the coronavirus pandemic. The head of government announced the introduction of a red zone over the whole country. He stressed that the government makes all its decisions regarding the pandemic following the guidelines of European experts, doctors and scientists. Ladies and gentlemen, dear compatriots, the epidemiological situation both in Poland and in all of Europe is very serious. The virus has returned with much more strength than in the spring of this year. Record numbers of infections are reported across the entire continent. In Poland, we are also facing the rising number of infections. The seriousness of the situation requires swift and firm action. We did not hesitate to take this during the spring, and we are not hesitating now. That is why, from Saturday, new security regulations are in place. All Poland will be under the red zone. Children and youth from the 4th grade of primary schools are switching to remote education. New restrictions also concern our seniors. In making these decisions, which are not easy from the social and economic standpoint, we are following the guidelines of the foremost Polish and foreign experts, epidemiologists and virologists. This long and excruciating fight with the coronavirus pandemic sparks doubts and emotions. However, the government, in its actions, must be above them and make crucial decisions which influence all Poles. That is our responsibility. We must defeat this epidemic. As a nation, we were always able to be brave and make necessary sacrifices. United, we will prevail.
Polaków są najważniejsze. Zróbmy to wspólnie.
That's the news. Thank you for watching. Stay with us for the weather, Poland Daily Business and more programmes. But from me, it's have a good night and a better tomorrow.